Good afternoon, everyone, and glad to welcome Vinay Dubey. As Sonal had mentioned, is the founder and the CEO of Akasa Air.
Thank you.
And it is India's newest scheduled airline and among the fastest growing carriers in the country. Earlier, of course, I think you're better known from your iconic investor, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. But Vinay brings with him 3 decades of global aviation experience. And you worked with the best, not just Delta Airlines, but Jet Airways and Go Air. And he's actually rapidly built a fleet that is all Boeing aircraft. It's about 35 aircraft that you have at the moment. And position yourself smartly as a lean, digitally driven airline, and you've entered one of the most competitive markets. So we're going to use this session to tap some of the insights you've had globally. And let's ask you the first big question, because you have 2 gorillas sitting with you, right? One is Indigo, which has close to about 11 times more aircraft than you have. You have Air India, which again is about 10 times or a little less than 10 times the aircraft, maybe 9 times the aircraft you have. And you are competing with these giants in a market that could be expanding, but could also have a lot of pressures, as we've seen with other airlines. So how do you operate in this? How confident are you of Akasa's success when you have such big daddies sitting around you?
Yeah, so thank you for that question and the introduction. I appreciate it. I keep saying that if you go to the jungles of Africa, where you find
or India,
where you find gorillas. Unfortunately, we don't have gorillas in India.
Yes,
if you go to the jungles of Africa, where you find gorillas, you find plenty of other smaller animals that are thriving. Right? It's not that in the jungles where you find gorillas, you only find gorillas and you don't find other smaller animals. So first, I will say that that life can not just survive but thrive when you are surrounded by gorillas. And the Indian aviation landscape is no different. India is a country that can support not just 2 or 3 airlines, but 5 or 6 highly successful airlines. And our success is not contingent on somebody else's failure. We're not looking to beat anyone. We're looking to serve our customers well. We're looking to provide wholesome and respectful employment for our employees. We want to be a good place to work. And I think over a period of time, we can build an extremely durable, successful airline. And that's our aim and that's our ambition. We've got 35 aircraft today. We've got an order book of 191 more aircraft. So it is our expectation that by soon after the turn of this decade, we will be one of the largest airlines in the world, the top 30 airlines in the world. And we're very, very successful at that. And we're successful because India has the space for it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a little provocative question.
Sure.
Okay, in the sense that airlines in India are littered with failures also. As much as they're successes, they're also failures. You were part of 2 of them in some aspects. Go Air, Go First, sorry, and of course Jet Airways, which we all at one time was the leader.
Correct.
What makes you? And if you take a look at Delta, also it went through its ups and downs in terms of the business. What are the lessons you took away from those? And when you fashioned Akasa, what is it that you said? Okay, I know what's some of the problems that there. Yeah. What do I need to do to make it successful? What are the?
Yeah. So I'd say, Raj, it's not just that the Indian aviation landscape has had aviation failures. Right. I think if you look globally over the last 30 or 40 years, you will find failures in other parts of the world as well.
True.
And you're absolutely right. You've got to understand the reasons for these failures, and you've got to build and fashion your venture based on the lessons learned. But an important fact that people perhaps are not familiar with is that if you look at the period between 2010 and 2019, right. This is a full decade prior to COVID, the US had 9 airlines that made money for the entire 10-year period. Not 1, not 2, 9. The second fact is that 4 out of the 5 of these 9 airlines that made money for the entire decade, 4 out of the top 5 had a market share of less than 4%. Right?
Okay.
So I think one of the lessons first, which is really what got me to start this, is that look, you can make money Just
Right.
because you've historically had failures in this industry, that doesn't mean you can't make money. You've got a precedence in a very large, highly competitive aviation industry, because the US has been sort of the mother of all, competitive aviation industries, right? It's a
Right.
dog-eat-dog world when it comes to aviation in the US. And here you have 9 airlines that have made money for an entire decade. So we can do it. We can do it here in India. And so that's the first sort of lesson learned is, look, be positive. If you set it up correctly, then this is an industry that has matured enough and you can make money. Some of the other lessons are you have to have a competitive cost structure. So no point setting the airline up if you're unable to foresee being a cost leader within the Indian aviation
Right.
landscape. And that's where I think doing a deal with Boeing for 226 brand new, state-of-the-art, highly fuel-efficient 737 MAX aircraft was the foundation stone of that cost structure.
Right.
The other ones is you have to have a professionally owned, professionally managed, professionally run company, because this is an industry that requires great expertise.
Right.
And these are some of the lessons learned that you can't run this on general business knowledge. You need this from day one, because if you don't set this up correctly, it'll take you 15 years to correct those mistakes, and by then it may be too late. The other one is to be well capitalized. Sorry,
Right.
not to give
Please,
you very,
please.
very long
Clear,
answers.
yes.
But one of the other lessons is to be well capitalized. And you
Right.
talked about the late great, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, but that was part of the strategy. Is you've got to make sure that you're well capitalized at every step of the way, because this industry will throw you a lot of surprises,
Right.
ups and downs that you can never expect, and you need not just the efficient cost structure and the professional management team, but you need the capitalization to be able to get through these ups and downs. So just briefly, these are some of the lessons learned.
Very good point, except that, we had an airline that wanted to live king size, and we saw what happened to it.
Right.
Is small beautiful? Is that what you're aiming at?
I wouldn't say small. So we're, having an order book of 226 aircraft by no stretch of the imagination is small.
Right.
This is a very personal story, but way back in early 2021, I was calling this is a family gathering, and I was calling my this venture a startup, and then my young brother-in-law, who's in his mid-30s today, super smart, bit sassy, calls me Jeej. He says, Jeej, if you'd ordered, at that time our order book was 72 aircraft. I said, Jeej, if you'd ordered 72 bicycles, you can call yourself a startup. But you've ordered 72 big aircraft.
Right.
You can't call yourself a startup.
That's true.
And so I would say it's not small that is beautiful. It is well structured. It is something that is planned extremely well with a good business model, a good strategy, and a good team to execute. That's beautiful. So the corollary is you don't have to be the largest to make money or be the best.
Okay. If you take a look at what you said earlier, the fact that India's aviation sector is priming itself to be the third largest, is already the third largest probably in the world that's there. But with it comes all the issues that are there, whether it is if I recall, the high ATF taxes that you have, volatile fuel prices, very tight regulatory oversight, and of course, unforeseen incidents. Like, for instance, Boeing had to ground a lot of its aircraft, testing them. The MAX escaped that, or was it grounded for a while?
It was, but today
it's all done. But you have to factor in that at that particular time, some of the aircraft would be out of service, and therefore. So if you look at that, is Indian Airlines, are you confident of, what would you want ideally to become really profitable and not go down the way others did?
Yeah, so first, I will say that all of the items you've mentioned for an industry professional, especially with the amount of gray hair that I have,
and no hair on mine.
that's par for the course,
Right.
right? You don't go to, and using a cricket analogy that everyone understands, you don't go to the Indian T20 cricket team and go, you know what, life is difficult because you may get a slow pitch, you may get a fast pitch, you may get a pitch that turns a little bit, you may have dew on the ground. Look, that's their life. They're professionals. They're trained to deal with that.
Right.
And so I've been in the industry for 35 years. If I didn't start the airline, not just understanding, but believing we would have currency pressure and fuel pressure and volatilities, well, then I shouldn't be in the industry and I have no right starting it, right? So first, none of these are surprises. Second, in terms of, success criteria, it goes back to the fundamentals. Have an airline that has an ability to be highly competitive when it comes to cost. It's a service-oriented industry, so you have to have an experience that customers want to come back to. No one's going to come back to you just on the basis of cost. And so if you look at the way we've fashioned Akasa, I'm sitting here, our seats have an extra inch of foam. So for a slightly older gentleman like me, my tailbone does not hurt when I fly from Mumbai to Delhi.
Also, you get cramped. You're not cramped
anymore. No, we've got best-in-class legroom.
Right.
These are brand new aircraft, so the noise levels are lower, the pressurization is better. We've got larger overhead bins. There's nothing, there are many business travelers over here. There's nothing more irritating than packing one less, pair of pants, one less, pairs of shoes, take them in your trolley for a 3-day trip, and then you're asked to gate check your bag. And so we've got larger overhead bins that have fewer gate checks than any other airline here in India. Our food is good. Our flight attendants, we're trying to teach them to be kind and empathetic. And that word kindness is super important to us. So have a competitive cost structure, have a really good service experience that has your customers coming back to you. And then be employee-centric. Because that's what will give you the longevity of each of these two items. And if you do that, then I think we'll be successful. I think, I think India's got a mature regulatory landscape.
Right.
I don't think that favors one airline or the other. I think we're flying. As long as we have a level playing field, we will survive. So I think we've got all the ingredients for us to be successful for a long time to come.
Let's look at cost.
Sure.
One of the things that we expect that more airlines come in, the costs should decrease for us as consumers, the fares. And yet, the consumer feels sometimes that we are beginning to pay much more than we ever did before. What is really the structural problem that exists in terms of cost, and what is your experience in terms of how to handle this aspect?
I would question the premise of that question, because I don't see a problem. I see only benefit. If you were to plot the value of an air ticket, and you take the price of an average air ticket in 2014 or 2015, and you compare that to the price of an air ticket today in 2026, 10, 12 years later, and by the way, you can go all the way back to 2000, you can go back to 1993, 1980, it doesn't matter how far you go back. On an inflation-adjusted basis, an air ticket is one of the only elements in India, or even other parts of the world, that is actually cheaper on an inflation-adjusted basis. So I think India has one of the cheapest fare regimes across any other part of the world. Right? That's just factual. That's not a wishful thinking. That's not I didn't dream this statistic up. This is just factual. One of the cheapest fare regimes across any other part of the world. And by the way, this is in an industry where approximately 60 to 70% of our cost is in US dollars. And as you know, the US dollar continues to appreciate, or the rupee continues to depreciate. So I would say first and foremost, we've got to acknowledge that India has some of the cheapest fares. For anyone over here that's traveled from London to Paris, New York to Washington, D.C., or any other city pair, Hong Kong, Osaka, wherever you want to go, and you compare it to a Mumbai, Delhi, we've got incredibly cheap airfares. And by the way, that's okay. That's okay because we also have a very efficient set of airlines in India. And that's what the country needs to progress the economy. And we're just very happy to be a part of it.
One of the aspects, costs, we've dealt with, and you say, well, compared to the rest, India's better off. It has actually dropped. That's your larger argument. Of course, we can always debate and dispute that in terms of that. But let's move to another aspect, which is, of course, again, a great concern for consumers. And we've seen the spate of air accidents that have happened, starting with Air India and, of course, some other private aircraft that have just gone down. What do we need to do in terms of air safety? How are you ensuring in your airline that things don't go awry despite the business booming?
Sure. So I would say, obviously, these are tragedies that have no remedy for as far as the family and loved ones are concerned. And the only thing we can do as a responsible airline is really have a global best practice safety standard.
Right.
So for us, we have 4 elements of strategy, and one of them is world-class safety. The other 2 I've mentioned before: cost leadership, service excellence, and employee centricity. So these are 4 things we repeat to ourselves and our employees all the time, and we lead with world-class safety. And safety is a state of mind. Safety is a culture that you build from day one. And I can only talk about Akasa's safety practices and safety principles. It starts by getting, a modern state-of-the-art aircraft. And when I talk about state-of-the-art aircraft, they're things that people don't see or understand, right? So when you land, your brake temperature gets really hot, and that could cause issues over a period of time. And so these state-of-the-art aircraft have real-time monitoring of brake temperatures. Just as an example.
Right.
At Akasa, we have from day one built this airline with professionals, with the highest standards of safety. I'm happy to report that we are one of the youngest airlines to have ever got the IOSA, which is a division of IATA, the global industry body. We're one of the youngest airlines to be IOSA safety certified, right? And so safety for us is non-negotiable. It's a way of being, and it trumps every decision that we make. Now, how do you build safety culture? I'll just give you an example. And a really important element of building safety culture is to have a very strong safety reporting culture from the front line, from every employee, right? And so about 2-3 years ago, as we were setting this up, I think maybe 3 years ago, the first 3 reports that we got on safety hazards in the airline, because that's the only way the airline addresses it, we got the 3 people that reported these safety hazards. We got a little cake. It's not much. We're a young airline, so we can't send them to Hawaii. We got a little cake. We cut the cake, and we plastered pictures of these 3 people with the entire senior management team for having reported our first 3 safety hazards. That's how you build safety culture amongst other things at the airline, and that's really important to us.
Okay, I'm going to broad base this a little more. And one of the things you always think about is, sure, Air India was a big name at one time internationally. Indigo, of course, also came, but then unfortunately, in the last couple of months, for various reasons, had to cut down on their thing, and maybe they're recovering. But why isn't there an Indian airline, right, that straddles the globe? You have Emirates, you have Qatar. Why can't we build a brand like that? And is that something you aspire to do at some point?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't aspire to do that.
Okay.
We have no ambition to straddle the globe. We have no ambition to plant the Akasa flag in different countries. We're very happy serving the Indian consumer here. We're very happy serving the Indian consumer that wants to go to Abu Dhabi or Phuket and the places we fly. We don't have those kind of ambitions. And I think it is exactly this sort of emotional view that gets airlines into trouble, right? We don't want to get emotionally attached to our network. We're perfectly happy. We're perfectly happy not flying to London. We're perfectly happy not flying to New York and other places like that. Let somebody else do it. So I can't speak to the ambitions of others. I can only speak to our ambition. We're not emotionally tied to our network. Our assets, the aircraft assets we have, are movable. We'll fly them to Abu Dhabi if people want to go there. We'll fly them to Ahmedabad if people want to go there, or Guwahati, as we inaugurated a new terminal there just very recently, or wherever the Indian consumer and diaspora want to fly.
Okay, give me a general answer. If Akasa is not doing it,
right,
what would it take for us to become the kind of giant in terms of aviation? If we are aspiring to be among the top 3, we should have one airline that is like, global class, right, which travels across. What's preventing us from doing that?
I don't know what's sort of preventing us, other than having a good, mature aviation industry and good, strong, aviation infrastructure. If you want to be a global airline, and look, this is not an Akasa. You want me to answer on behest of somebody else, so please take my answer with a pinch of salt. But Emirates as a global airline, or Qatar, or Etihad today, I think Etihad is perhaps the finest airline, in our part of the world, if not the entire world. You need a professionally managed airline.
Right.
You need a wide body order if you want to fly to the far reaches of the world. And you need airport infrastructure that can support a hub and spoke system.
Right. Right.
These are the fundamentals. We've got the traffic here in India. That's not the problem. So this is it.
So, and therefore, if you had to look at 3 or 4 things that you would like to happen in the aviation sector, whether from the government or whatever, to push us further,
Yeah.
what would be those 3 or 4 things, your wish list?
So
If this was there, I could do this and that. What would be
Yeah.
what then?
So first, I will answer that question, but I'll preface it by saying our government is doing a lot, and we have
You
already.
better say that. Sorry. No, just
I would, but look, I'll give you a little anecdote
Right.
where this is not just me saying it to be politically correct or
Right,
not get
right.
into trouble. When I was first, starting and founding Akasa, first everyone and their cousin tried to convince me that I was just completely stupid. Right? You're a moron for trying to start an airline in late 2020. No
After
airplanes
all
were
the-
flying.
Yes.
The entire world's fleet was grounded. But, it wasn't just the fact that the entire world's fleet was grounded that people told me not to start. They said, you spent 35 years almost outside of the country. You're like a foreigner. Yes, you've got brown skin. You look like, but you think differently. And there's no way you'll get a license, right? Because you're not willing to bribe anyone. No problem. There's no way you'll get a license. Forget it. Leave that to somebody else. So it's not that they told me this was not a good business, don't start. It's COVID, don't start. You don't know aviation, don't start. No. You will never get a license because you know nobody, you're not willing to bribe anybody, so forget it. You'll just be spun around in circles. We got our license without 1 rupee of bribe, without knowing anyone,
Right.
and in 23 months, which by any
Yeah.
part...
Let's
Yeah.
give a roll. Yeah.
which in any part of the world will be considered efficient, right?
Right.
So when you hear that the government is trying to promote other airlines, that's not BS.
Right.
We are the product of that. So when I say the government has done enough, it's not some sort of general statement I'm making to.
But
to
you
please
got 3
people.
minutes. Give me your wish list. Now
Yeah,
that
so
you've said
so
yes.
wish list would be continued development of airports.
Right.
Continued development, and that's sort of the physical infrastructure. And I'll talk in infrastructure terms because we're at a wonderful infrastructure conclave over here. So physical infrastructure, continued development of physical infrastructure, airports, continued development of digital infrastructure, things like DigiYatra or the electronic immigration that we've got. Those are things that people see, but people don't see the electronic infrastructure in some other places like air traffic control improvements.
Right.
Continued focus on policy change related to taxation, more more places like Gift City and more taxation assistance like we're making on MROs. So these are some of the kind of policy and infrastructure developments that we'd like to continue to see done in India, like we've seen the push already.
And I would gather, like what you were saying earlier, the hub and spoke. We can create our own hub and spoke within the country, which can move people very efficiently across.
We've certainly got the demand for it.
Right.
And with these new airports being built, the Navi Mumbai Airport and the Noida International Airport, we have an ability to build that connecting infrastructure from scratch. So we've got the demand. We now have some brand new airports at very large hub-oriented cities. So 100% we can do it.
Where do we stand when it comes to, say, luggage movement? I'm not looking just cargo.
Yeah.
Passenger facilities, right?
Yeah.
Where your ease of traveling, let's put it.
Yeah.
Where does that factor come in, and what do you want on that front? That, as soon as we come out within 10 minutes, the luggage should be out and we are there and taking across. Yeah.
So this is one where, I will say, having traveled the world over,
Right.
I think sometimes as Indian consumers, we don't give our Indian results enough respect. People go, I was standing in immigration lines, I was waiting for my luggage. Look, I think we've got some of the most efficient airports as far as luggage is concerned. I just got off a flight from Mumbai to Delhi, a day and a half ago, traveling with people that had luggage. Their luggage got there before I got to the luggage carousel. Yes, I was the last person to, disembark our flight. But that's it. The last person
People didn't know you were the CEO of Akasa, and therefore...
I didn't have luggage. I didn't have
Okay.
luggage, and nobody knows when I travel. I just show up.
Right, right. So you're saying things are good.
I think things can always be better, but
Right.
let's give ourselves a break to think that, it's not that bad here. Our immigration lines, our luggage counters, the security we have in India is a breeze. You go to the US and you try and enter a US
That's
airport,
true.
you're waiting for 45 minutes.
That's
We
true.
get impatient in 3 or 4 minutes.
Vinay, in that very positive, optimistic note, thank you very much. Let's give
Thank
him
you, Raj.
a very, very warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.